Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Thursday, April 20th, 2023. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the March 30th meeting. Are there any amendments to the minutes? Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the minutes. April 20th.
Second,
I wasn't there, but I guess I can second the motion.
as a point of order, am I allowed to approve or second a motion?
I don't see why not.
Okay, well, I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
I was there, so I'll second it.
Okay.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay. Oh, I missed the agenda. We need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I move to approve. I move to approve April 20th meetings agenda.
second,
Okay. Those in favor?
You want to make that change you mentioned when you came in?
Well, I don't care if we want to do the second one first, so Jay can leave. Or he can sit through the whole thing. What's your,
I'm good with changing the order of the agenda.
That would just be a matter of approving.
Okay. That makes sense since wasn't anyone
Agreed.
here. From Dave Venata. He's online. See if maybe he's okay with it. He's on
Yes.
Zoom. He's
If you
okay.
can hear me, yes, I'm okay with that, certainly.
Okay. Okay.
okay,
Thank
well,
you.
then let's reverse number 3 and 4. And do the ADU unit first. Okay, so I guess I need a motion to approve the revised agenda.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the revised agenda order.
a second,
In favor?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So. Yep, item 4 then. And this is a quasi judicial hearing regarding DRB 23-05, Lana Architects on behalf of Panzer for an accessory dwelling unit over a garage at 663 Ocean Avenue. Lana Architects, applicant on behalf of Brett Tanzer. The property is owned by Brett and Jennifer Tanzer and is located at 663 Ocean Avenue in a residential medium density zone. The application will be reviewed against the criteria of Municipal Code Chapter 17.44.080 to 17.44.100 design review criteria. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the design review board to hear this matter at this time? Does any commission member believe he or she is in conflict of interest or has a personal bias? Has any commission member had any ex parte contacts or made a site visit?
Site visit.
none,
I drove by. Okay, the staff report.
The proposed project is the addition of an accessory dwelling unit to an existing garage at 663 Ocean Avenue. Part of this project will include reducing the footprint of the garage and replacing the upper level with an accessory dwelling unit. The proposal is brought before the design review board as accessory dwelling units require exterior modifications to existing dwellings are subject to review. While not a criterion of review for the board, it is noted that the current garage is a pre-existing non-conforming structure. Applications requesting a setback reduction and variance to exceed the 0.6 floor area ratio limitation will be heard by the Planning Commission during its April 27th public meeting. The approval criteria are in Design Review Standard 1744, Section Municipal Code. Moving on into the site design evaluation. All improvements on the subject property currently exist and will not be rearranged except for the reduction in the footprint size of the garage and an increase in height in order to accommodate the proposed accessory dwelling unit. The current garage is a pre-existing non-conforming structure that doesn't meet current setback requirements. It is tucked right into the rearmost corner of the property. And as stated before, that will be heard by the Planning Commission. Condition of approval makes approval of this application contingent on approval of the setback reduction by the Planning Commission. Moving into the design incorporating existing features, the design maintains an existing site feature, including a 42-inch DBH Sitka spruce located near the southeastern corner of the property. This proposal is not unusually large or located so that it would become an introduction or transition to a neighborhood or the beach. Then moving on into traffic and circulation, it is a detached single-family residence, so a pedestrian circulation system is not required. There are no impacts identified for scenic values, solar access, light or air within the site or to adjacent structures. There would be no identified impacts to other scenic views. And the proposal is consistent with the existing residential development of the neighborhood. Moving into architectural design criteria. The design is compatible with existing residences in the area and is not monotonous or excessively dissimilar. The proposed materials and colors are consistent with the character of Cannon Beach. The exterior will be sided with cedar shingles and the trim will be painted white. It is not unusually large or likely to become a village landmark and does not exceed the 28-foot vertical height limit for structures with a 5/12 pitched roof. And then continuing to move on. There has been regarding illumination, there has been no information provided by the applicant regarding light fixtures. Condition of approval number 2 will require lighting fixtures to comply with exterior standards as per Municipal Code 1744-150. And then moving into landscaping, design makes no significant alterations to existing landscape and will ultimately increase the amount of open space available through the reduction of the garage's footprint. This preserves existing vegetation, including the pre-existing or pre-mentioned spruce tree. And overall, the amount of hard surface contributing to overall lot coverage will be reduced through the combination of the reduction of the garage and also the installation of a grasscrete driveway that will be semi-permeable. And that concludes the staff report.
Okay, thank you. Is there any additional correspondence?
No, there hasn't been any correspondence on this application.
Okay. Okay, for public testimony, the pertinent criteria to be considered are noted in the staff reports and listed on the criteria sheets posted on the meeting page of the city website. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward the criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or municipal code, which the person testifying believes to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal based on that issue. Prior to the conclusion of initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional testimony, arguments, or evidence regarding the application. The Design Review Board will grant such requests by continuing the public hearing or leaving the record open for additional written testimony, arguments, or evidence. Persons who testify shall first receive recognition, state their full name and mailing address, and if appearing in a representative capacity, identify who they represent. Is there a presentation by the applicant?
Yes.
Good.
Jay Orloff, Tillabon Architects, representing Brett and Jennifer Tenenzer, PO Box 563, Cannon Beach. Thank you for the time today. Robert has done a very thorough analysis. I'd just like to add a few more points. We are reducing the size of the footprint of the existing garage by roughly 10 feet, going from 26 feet to 16 feet in width. We are looking to develop a single unit ADU above for either rental or family. It's very straightforward. Again, the client is looking in addition to add to this backyard, have more space. You did a site visit, you can see how cramped it is in the rear. Additional 10 feet will go a long way in real estate for them to enjoy their backyard. As for the design, we are roughly mimicking the existing house as noted by Robert. White trim, shingle siding. We do have a balcony with a wire picket or wire railing, wood top. This is just on the front. There really isn't much more to this. It's just a very simple ADU. And we are, just to note, roughly 4.5 feet below the height restriction. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
So as an accessory dwelling, according to 17.04.008, rentals are to be 30 or more days. Is that understood?
Unless it's, yes, it would be required to be.
Right. So if you use it as a rental, it has to be
It will, yeah, he will.
days,
present
30
you
or
with,
more days, right?
He will present you with the required documentation. I reviewed that with Robert prior to coming today.
Correct. And that's condition of approval number 3. There is a typo on that. But condition of approval number 3 would be that the accessory dwelling will not be used as a short-term rental as per municipal code 1754-080J.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And then I guess I would feel that the lights are an important component, particularly if you get a variance from the Planning Commission because of the dark sky that we are trying to follow in Cannon Beach. You're going to be so close to that house that's right next door. So that might be some good information for us to see as well, going by our, that's in design review, lighting specifications.
Yes, I understand the dark sky. I apologize for not having it on there. We're looking at roughly 2 fixtures, one on the south side, which is to the open area of the yard, and one on the south side of the west facing garage, looking.
You anticipate them being motion sensor lights?
I have no intention as far as I know. And that could be, you could add that as a condition of approval if you like, along with the dark sky initiative.
Mm-hmm.
We do follow the dark sky initiative for all our developments and our houses. I am fully aware of, and I agree 100% with it.
Yes, and condition of approval number 2 does address exterior lighting fixtures. And that those do meet the criteria established in 1744-150.
And then I guess my last question is, looking at that tree, I mean, it seems like it's been limbed pretty extensively. And it looks like there's some limbs that might interfere with the height of this building. And I'm wondering if you're anticipating having to take more limbs off, as well as if you've had an arborist look at the health of the tree to see if it's going to be able to withstand the construction that will be taking place.
I have had an arborist take a look at it, and he is all for the construction because it's actually opening up more for the root structure. We will not,
That
no, we don't have a formal report for it. If he didn't deem it necessary as we're reducing the footprint, we will take in consideration the root and tree protection zone. I can have them out there at the time of construction to lay that out.
yeah, it just seems like the a construction zone should be established. And especially since that tree is being used as a landscape criteria. And I mean, I'm anticipating that if you come and say, well, the tree is damaged now and we need to take it out.
No, that's no intention at all. The intention is more to save it than damage it in any way.
Yeah. And then what sort of landscaping is planned, since you're going to have 10 feet of extra? Is it just grass that?
At this point, small shrubbery around the perimeter and just grass. They would like to enjoy the outdoor space.
Mhm.
So no, they have no reason to do anything extensive back there's any more than what's already there. They have a nice border around the fence
Mhm.
and a little bit next to the garage as it is now. We will have our stairway up there, so we'll be reducing that on that side, but there's a small section there.
I think that covers all my questions, gentlemen. I will defer to you as far as any other
I was just
questions or.
curious as to why you didn't just convert the half of the garage to an ADU instead of adding a second floor.
Again, addition for the backyard and reduction in the footprint. They just don't feel the use for it. They feel that the addition of the ADU up above, rather than what's up there, is just basically an attic space.
I was gonna,
It's insufficient for it. Especially in consideration if it is used for workforce housing, it's something that we very much need in this town. To make it more desirable.
Okay, so you're adding a bathroom. Is there existing water and sewer connections to the garage?
I don't believe there's sewer, but I believe there's water. So there would require an SDC connection.
It's like plan didn't show any plan to run a sewer line.
That would be design build at the time of construction. Permitted through the trade.
Yeah, there would be, at the point of a permit review, there would be more extensive plans being reviewed.
Thank you.
would that go before Public Works then to?
A public works employee would be reviewing it, yes.
Harvey, do you have anything?
A couple questions. One, it looks like this probably, just out of interest, this adds a view for the ADU.
Yes, there's a direct line right down the driveway.
Okay. Are you maxing out our allowable ADUs square footage?
No, actually it's smaller, I believe. 16 by 22. I'm sorry, I don't have the number exactly on the top of my head here.
Okay.
352 square feet. Slightly more than half of what's available.
Yeah, it looks a little cramped inside. So I'm, again, as Dave asked the question, I'm curious why they would demolish part of a perfectly good building when you could probably use all that square footage and still provide a view for them. So I know they're going to get a little backyard, but it just seems like it's not real practical.
The upstairs is unusable. Again, it's an attic in the upper level. The side of the garage would be blocked by the house looking out to the west.
Yes.
So there really wouldn't be any view.
Yeah, except for the same view you're providing now.
No, actually, yes, exactly, other than the view that's currently there. The view from the ADU, the alternate, the presented ADU would be considerably better.
Sure. Those are all
Okay.
my questions.
Is there a presentation by any other proponents? Presentation by any opponents? Additional staff comments?
Staff recommends approval subject to the following conditions. Number one, being design review approval is contingent on approval of applications setback reduction 2302 and variance 2302, which will be heard by the planning commission on April 27th. Exterior lighting fixtures are to comply with exterior lighting standards, and that the accessory dwelling unit will not be used as a short-term rental.
It's in the design review board's purview to look at the lightings plan, correct?
To address the lighting. The most I could do with the information provided is to condition approval on the
But
restriction of the code.
something that we could ask for additional information to continue and just to see the lighting I'd like to see that arborist report to talk about the health of the tree. Just to make sure, I'm not an arborist, but it looks like it's kind of stressed in just the way that the root system is growing. It just seems like it could easily affect it.
Well, so as not to do a continuance, could we put that as a condition of approval, which I would have to provide to, the lighting I would have to provide to Robert as part of the permitting, and as well as the arborist letter.
Well, and I think that it's going to planning commission, so you're going to know a lot more at that point, and then to come back and we can really just know exactly more of what's going on. I feel like a continuation is necessary, just to make sure planning commission is on board with what we are.
Well, of course, my preference would be not to do a continuance because we're looking to get the permit as quick as possible.
There a reason for that?
Yes, because we want to get to construction and get it finished up this year.
Okay.
I'm more than happy to and willing to provide that information to you. I'm not averse to that. I would prefer to have it as condition approval, as Robert stated, to move forward. That could be handed out administratively through Robert to you. And if there's any issues, then we can consider that.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like as a design review board member that I want to follow procedure and criteria as we would with any application that comes before us. And to have those parts of the application included.
Very well.
So that would take a motion to have a continuance to May.
Well, gentlemen, are you okay if I make a motion for continuance for further information regarding lighting, an arborist report for the health of the tree, and also contingent upon approval of planning commission for the setback variance?
Yes,
Was kind of surprised we would be looking at it before the setback was approved in the first place.
It is a bit of cart before the horse, but
Yeah.
that's unfortunately the design review came up.
And I'm not sure, I'd have to check the planning commission's, the planning commission application, but we've had a bit of an issue because the February meeting was canceled due to weather. And so things have been kind of put out of sequence with that, where February got pushed to March. A lot of stuff that was going to be heard in March is being pushed to this month. And then we're also clearing everything.
It looked like it was on the agenda to me for next week, so, okay.
We were last month as well.
But it might have been something that was originally going to be heard that got bumped.
Mhm. Well,
I
as
still
far as I
agree.
know, it's on the agenda as far as I can see, so.
Yes,
Yes.
imagine that they're gonna discuss it and rule on it, so.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I made that motion.
We have a motion to continue the discussion to the May meeting and look at the lighting.
Arborist report for the tree.
report And
Contingent on-
approval by the planning commission of the setback.
I second that motion.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Right. Okay, so that brings us back to item number 3.
Mr. Venata.
Yes. Good evening.
Venata or Veneta? I want to say that correct.
Vanita. Yeah,
Vanita.
Vanita, please.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Veneta.
Okay, so this is another quasi judicial hearing regarding DRB 23-05. Olivana Architects on behalf. I'm on the wrong page here. Where'd we go?
We got you all messed up
We
now.
already did that, yeah.
Sorry.
Excuse me, myself.
Anyways. Here we go.
There, okay, I'm back. Okay. Sorry about that.
You're good.
Okay. So this is a quasi judicial hearing regarding DRB 23-04, David Voneda application on behalf of David Dietka for a new 2-story mixed-use development at the intersection of First and Spruce Streets. Property is owned by David Spruce LLC. Application will be reviewed against the criteria of Municipal Code Chapter 17. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the Design Review Board to hear this matter at this time? Does any commission member believe he or she has a conflict of interest or personal bias? Has any commission member had any ex parte contacts or made a site visit?
Site visit.
None.
I did talk to Mike Morgan about the landscaping. Unofficially. Okay. So staff report.
The proposed project is the development of tax lot 51030 AA 04402 at the intersection of First and Spruce Streets with a mixed-use development that would consist of 4 retail or other commercial units and 5 residential units. The subject property is zoned limited commercial C1, and a development that has residential uses in conjunction with permitted uses, meaning commercial activities, is a permitted use outright in that zone. This proposal is brought before the Design Review Board as all new construction or development except for single-family residences, mobile homes, modular homes, and their accessory structures is subject to review. While not a criterion of review for the Design Review Board, it is noted that the development permit, which provided the land use authorization for this proposal, has been appealed to the Planning Commission. And this appeal, AA number 2302, will be heard by the Planning Commission during its April 27th meeting. Approval criteria are in the design review standards of the municipal code. These are excerpted below. For the site design evaluation criteria. As per the site plan, the proposed arrangement is consistent with the surrounding uses, namely the existing mixed-use development at the intersection of First and Hemlock. There is a delineated wetland on the eastern and southern portions of the property and the Spruce Street right-of-way, and the position of the structure is consistent with the provisions of the wetland overlay zone and maintains the required 5-foot wetland buffer area. The C1 zoning district does not have a minimum setback requirement, and the northernmost retail tenant space is set back approximately 3 feet from the northern property line and separated from the first street right-of-way by a vegetated area. The positioning is similar to existing development in the downtown, which is on or near the sidewalk. The design maintains the wetland that runs along the eastern property line and effectively uses it as vegetative screening between the structure and Spruce Street. The total square footage of the project has been calculated to approximately 9,150 square feet and is significantly smaller than the existing development at First and Hemlock. This design is typical for Cannon Beach architecture with cedar shake siding, bay windows, and multiple gables. The proposal integrates parking and vehicle access with an existing development at First and Hemlock. The location of the proposed development may serve as a means of increasing pedestrian traffic in the southeastern corner of the downtown area. The proposed design does not have any significant impact on scenic values of the surrounding area, nor does it have any significant impacts on solar access, light, or air within the site or on adjacent structures. The design emphasizes pedestrian access by being positioned close to the First Street right-of-way, with vehicle parking located along the western side of a parking and along the western side and a parking lot on the southern portion to the rear of the development. The residential and non-residential components of the site are largely separate and have distinct entry and egress points that will reduce the impact of the different uses on each other. As per the site plan, refuse storage is positioned toward the rear of the property and is shown to have a screening fence. And the ground level retail tenants and covered walkways are accessible to persons with mobility restrictions. A ramp adjacent to the ADA accessible parking spaces that is close to the First Street right-of-way provides access to pedestrians with mobility assistance devices, wheelchairs, or mobility scooters. Moving into the architectural design evaluation criteria. The design is typical for Cannon Beach architecture and that it uses a peaked roof, multiple gables, covered walkways, and cedar shake siding. While typical, it is not monotonously similar in shape or form to adjacent development, specifically the existing mixed-use structure at First and Hemlock. The shape and scale of the proposed development are consistent with nearby non-residential developments. The maximum building height does not exceed the 28-foot vertical height above existing grade. There are no residential structures in close proximity to the proposal that would be impacted by the presence of a larger structure nearby. The proposed materials and colors are consistent with the character of Cannon Beach, and the structure includes design elements such as bay windows, dormers, gables, and offsets to provide visual interests. Total square footage of the project, we have addressed that. It is significantly smaller than adjacent buildings. And we've already addressed scenic values. The design provides easy pedestrian access, includes features such as ramps. Pedestrian walkways serving both commercial and residential areas are covered to provide protection from weather. No signage is proposed with this application. Individual commercial tenants will be required to obtain signage permits at the time of occupancy. No information has been provided by the applicant regarding lighting fixtures. Condition of approval number 2 will require lighting fixtures to comply with exterior lighting standards of Municipal Code 1744-150. And there are no anticipated impacts to privacy for occupants of adjacent structures as a result of this proposal. Moving into the landscape design evaluation criteria. The landscape design indicates that existing vegetation in the delineated wetland and wetland buffer areas will be preserved, and additional vegetation, including salal and sword ferns, will be planted on the northwest portion of the property. Multiple trees, including alders, hemlock, and willow, will be preserved along the southeastern and southern portions of the property. Vegetated buffers will be created along the building and in parking areas. The landscaping plan uses a variety of different plantings, including bushes, shrubs, and trees. The design appears to avoid the placement of sod and instead uses a more visually interesting approach. This lot is measured to be 18,369 square feet, of which 5,738 square feet or 31% is reserved for landscaping that meets the requirements of 1744-120. Of this area, 5,227 square feet or 91% of that is living plant material, and the remaining 511 square feet would consist of open sidewalks and patios. Parking is not included in the landscaping calculation. The plants included on the landscaping plan appear to be consistent with Cannon Beach and its environmental conditions. And provision for the maintenance of common areas, including landscaping, will be made through tenant lease agreements and or the formation of a homeowners association. The design provides some public amenities, including bicycle parking, a pathway along the eastern portion of the property, and a public art sculpture along the northern edge of the property. It is anticipated that the hard surface portion of the design will have an asphalt paved parking lot with concrete sidewalks. Due to the relatively flat nature of the property, there are no opportunities to provide landscaping at a variety of elevations, and there are no significant slopes on the subject property. The design does separate commercial from residential uses. And again, regarding light fixtures, no information has been provided, and condition of approval number 2 will require compliance with municipal code. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Any
Can I
additional?
ask a question at this time? Is that appropriate? To ask a question. So you mentioned an HOA, so these are proposed condominiums that will be sold?
We're not sure of that. So that's nothing.
Restriction right now for,
Restrictions would only be applied if the applicant was getting financial assistance from the city, which they are not. So these would either be market rate rentals or they could be sold as condominiums. But that is a decision that is not within the city's purview as to how the real estate aspect is handled.
okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, is there any additional correspondence?
No, there's not.
Okay. So, call for public testimony. Pertinent criteria to be considered are noted in the staff report and listed in the criteria sheets. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward that criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or municipal code, which the person testifying believes to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes additional appeal based on that issue. Prior to the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional testimony, arguments, or evidence regarding the application. The design review board will grant such requests by continuing public hearing or leaving the record open for additional written testimony, arguments, or evidence. Persons who testify will first receive recognition from the chair, state their full name and mailing address, and if appearing as a representative, identify whom they represent. Is there a presentation by the applicant?
Yes, I'm David Veneta, Tolovana Architects, and I represent Dave Pietka, the owner of the property. First of all, Robert, is there a setting that would allow my camera to actually work? I've had a challenge with the city's system for some reason. If everybody's okay with just my voice, that's about all I can figure out technically here. So I don't have the ability to switch my camera on for some reason. So I apologize for that first and foremost.
I'm not aware of any settings, but the way this is set up, I wouldn't know where that would be if that was an option.
Okay, well, we're both in the dark, literally. Right, we'll proceed. What I wanted to start out with was just kind of a little history on this property. As many of you know and probably recall, Mike Clark originally purchased Ecola Square on First and Hemlock right around 2004, 2005, something like that. And I was the architect for the conversion of Ecola Square from the two-story retail development to one-story with the condos above. And as part of that development, this piece of property to what we refer to as the East Ecola Square, or Ecola Square East, I guess we called it, was kind of left over, if you will. And Mike, over the years since 2005, the completion roughly of Ecola Square, had me study a number of different configurations for this property. So I'm very familiar with it, number one. And number two, after Dave Pietka purchased it from Mike Clark, I think well over a year ago now, he came to us based on our experience with the property and our experience with the process of approval through design review and planning commission. And we've studied further development scenarios for Dave Pietka on the property. So I think you could say I've explored just about every option available to this particular piece of property. And I think the one we're presenting to you now for your approval really represents the best solution of all, in that, number one, I really agree with the findings and recommendations of Robert's staff report, and especially the aspect of this development really rounding out or finishing the downtown Cannon Beach retail area. Right now, there's no reason for people to make a loop by foot around Hemlock and Spruce around on First Street, for example. You know, this lot sat vacant essentially since the fish market many years ago went away. And it's really an unsightly part of downtown, frankly. And so I really think this proposed development is going to bring people the south end of the downtown retail area, number one, but really finish off the retail core of Cannon Beach. And I think it's going to finish it off in a very attractive, consistent manner. I, again, played with a lot of options, and I think the way this building addresses the street, it reinforces kind of the pedestrian activity and encourages more pedestrian activity along First Street. And hopefully will bring people down Spruce Street as well from the north. So again, I wholeheartedly support Robert's staff report, his findings. We don't have any major concerns about his conditions of approval. I do have to mention, I did in fact submit a lighting plan with light fixture cut sheets that for whatever reason didn't get included in the packet tonight, and I apologize for that. I'm not sure why Robert didn't receive that, or it's not in the packet. But
I'm not familiar. I don't think I saw anything like that.
Okay. Well, it's kind of a similar situation in that we certainly don't have a problem with the Dark Sky Initiative type light fixtures. We actually have included them in a detailed sheet that I've mentioned. For whatever reason, it's not in front of you at tonight's hearing, but I would certainly be happy to provide that to Robert for his review and approval. Very often we've done that in the past, made it a condition of approval for Robert's further review at a staff level. If you're comfortable with that. So I guess in conclusion, I'm certainly happy to ask and answer any questions you might have concerning this development. And I'm excited to put it in front of you this evening. So thank you.
Thank you for your work. Yeah, time and
Were there any presentations by proponents? Any presentations by opponents? Yes. I thought you might.
I'm Jan Siebert Warmond, P.O. Box 778, Cannon Beach, 97110. Dear Cannon Beach Design Review Board members, since the development permit, which provided the land use authorization for this First and Spruce Street proposal, has been appealed to the Planning Commission, and the appeal AA 23-02 will be heard by the Planning Commission at its April 27th meeting next week. Wouldn't it be reasonable to postpone your final decision on this matter until after the Planning Commission appeal is decided? There could well be important site, architectural, and landscape considerations which come out of the appeal process that are relevant to the DRB criteria decisions that need to be made. Thank you for your attention to this request. And I would also like to request that the lighting information come to you. And then also for the future, I would like to ask that that be made part of a deeming of an application as complete. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Any further staff response?
The only response I have is that recommending approval subject to the two following conditions. One, approval is contingent on the ultimate disposition of the appeal of development permit 2310, which is to have its initial public hearing before the Planning Commission on April 27th. And two, as the previously mentioned, exterior lighting fixtures are to comply with exterior lighting standards.
Does the applicant wish to make any additional statements?
Yes, I hope that we could move the project along and not simply table it. I appreciate the fact that it's also going to be heard in the on the Planning Commission agenda next week. The appeal, however, is very limited. It's just a point of contention brought up by one of the Planning Commission members regarding residential density. It has no effect on the findings or view of the building or any of the architectural criteria that we're talking about this evening. But be that as may, it will be heard next week. Again, the lighting has been put forward on the plans, and I'm happy to submit those to Robert for his review. We've done that in other cases and that I've had in front of the Design Review Board. So I would hope that we could do that in this case as well. Thank you.
Okay. Looking at the landscaping aspects, I note that there's a rather involved report from an arborist for the site. that was attached. However, I noticed that looking through it, that it was done based on an alternate configuration of buildings, which is not part of what you're doing now.
Well, and I would even add that his attachment 5.4 says loss or alteration of any part of this delivered report invalidates the entire report.
Yeah. Anyway, attachment 2 clearly shows a series of 5 single-family type residences on the footprint and not the proposed building. So it kind of renders the whole arborist report null and void.
Well, I looked at it where I think it's more is I can find the landscape. That's what is current. And that pretty much shows to me, it's a clear cut of everything and just landscape. Yeah, that, trying to find that page.
Yeah.
Well, that was I had to get my magnifying glass out to see some of this stuff.
Some of the trees that are marked as being existing to remain.
So that's where I question the landscape, and if in actuality they're looking to just clear cut the entire site, and there it is. Larry Moore, his landscape design doesn't really show retaining a buffer on Spruce Street, from my understanding.
Is there a larger version of this plan available somewhere?
I can bring that up.
So it's hard to tell. I know in Prager's landscape, he listed the trees individually, stating, and I saw that he retained some, which he said the structure and condition were fair to poor, and I was a little bit, one was even fallen down. A little bit curious about how he determined that criteria for removal. So this doesn't really show which trees are to be protected. Going by Prager's wonderful report.
3 alders and a hemlock that are shown as.
And I would also, on the south end of the property too, where Elk Run Park is, it abuts Elk Run Park, and just maintaining that buffer and just how that parking lot is going to affect the asphalt.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
Are we saying that Todd Prager Associates plan for removal and retention of trees no longer applies?
That's my understanding, Harvey.
Yeah.
And that Larry Moore's landscape design is the current design presented with the application.
Hmm. Yeah, so, yeah, why do we even have Todd Prager's attached? That looked like a pretty good plan.
So I can address that question. So this is a similar footprint project presented by the same applicant for the same property. We felt that it was appropriate to be able to recycle that particular thing for the purposes of review. And then if there was a necessity to remove trees, we would then go through the standard tree permitting process, which would require review by the city arborist before any permit to remove trees is issued.
Well, it certainly looks like you're going to have to remove a lot of trees.
The applicant be willing to, I mean, I thought Prager did a great job in trying to retain trees. Would he be someone that could be involved again in making sure the trees are retained, or the ones that were needing to be removed, or is that up to the applicant or the city to determine who is part of that process?
I think that would be a question for the applicant.
I would think we could make that arrangement, yes.
It just, the former structure might have been the same footprint, but it can't possibly have covered the same area of the lot and be able to retain the trees that Prager was showing.
Yeah,
Right.
It's gonna be impossible.
I have a question about the parking. Is the number of spaces shown, or is that the minimum requirement for this building?
Correct. That does meet the parking requirements. There is one parking space per 400 square feet of retail. And then because the residential space is less than 500, less than 50% of the building, there would be one parking space per residential unit instead of the required two. And the applicant does have off-site parking as well. So I believe one, possibly two spaces would be addressed through their off-site parking allocation.
So there's not really any chance to eliminate parking spaces.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, so where are we at?
Well, I have a question that I'm confused about, and the fact that we are reviewing a C1 limited commercial zone, which according to I've got so much paperwork. According to 17.22.050 standards, C states that the building height, maximum height of a structure is 24 feet.
Unless.
And we've got the 28 feet, and that's a C2 zone, so I'm confused.
So
Different.
to address that, it's 24 feet unless it has a peaked roof of 512 or greater, in which case it can be 28 feet.
Mhm.
Okay. And you can confirm that, David, that is the pitch roof?
Yes, absolutely. I designed it to exactly that criteria.
Okay. Oh. All right. And then as far as freestanding signs, I mean, there's no plans for that. I mean, a lot of the mall that you want to call malls have freestanding signs, but there's no plan to call it Ecola Square East or some other such thing to
Yeah.
landmark it, and then the businesses can add their own business name.
Yeah, you know, typically what I've done on most of the commercial projects I've done in downtown Cannon Beach is defer the sign design to a separate design review application, just because we've had some interest from tenants on the development already, but it's a little premature to start doing a sign permit. There is a monument, there is a location on the site for a monument sign adjacent to the sculpture on First Street near the pedestrian entry to the property, but that hasn't been finalized at this time. So we'd prefer to defer it if that's possible.
There's a sculpture in mind already, or?
Yes, there is. And again, it's on the detail sheet that
Yeah.
got deleted. So it sounds like we'll be submitting both the lighting plan and additional details, including the sculpture that's proposed.
So do we need a continuation? So that we can see the lighting plan and any landscape alterations?
Yeah, I think we need some additional definition of landscaping, particularly the tree removals and retentions, which don't seem to match the Brigger report.
Great.
Would move that we continue the discussion for the May meeting, which will also give us a chance for the planning commission to resolve their appeal. What do you think?
I think I agree. Do we need to also include that we're looking for information as far as the lighting
Yeah.
and the landscaping, and the continuation?
I have one more question on the design, but I certainly approve what you just suggested, but I would like to discuss one thing on the design. But
Yeah.
should I wait on that until we've passed this motion?
I think if we pass the motion, the discussion's over, so
Okay, then
go ahead.
I'm looking at architectural design criteria E. If the project includes a large structure or structures such as a large motel or condominium, the design avoids a monolithic expanse of frontages and roof lines and diminishes the massing of buildings by breaking up building sections or by use of such elements as variable planes, projections, bays, dormers, setbacks, or changes in the roof line. This design is great on the northwest and south sides, but side E really completely defies this particular criteria. It's we have like more than 50 feet of blank wall. We're looking at the backside of a bunch of stores as we drive up Spruce. So from the Spruce side, we're not seeing very much.
Yeah, that elevation view is missing some other things that were shown on the plan view, like doors and windows on the upper section and a patio on the be the south end.
Mhm.
There's, I'd like to interject, there will be a considerable landscape buffer along Spruce Street there just due to the existing wetland plantings that will be remaining. So we weren't as concerned about that side of the building, mainly because it's going to be difficult to see from Spruce Street.
Your landscaping is going to have to be pretty tall.
Well, yeah,
And dense.
yeah, it's plenty dense, and it'll get taller. But yes, I appreciate the point.
Yeah, that building design is a blank wall. If it matched the rest of the building, it would be delightful.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, we've got a
Motion on the table?
motion on the floor to continue the hearing at our May meeting and to consider the lighting plan additional landscaping and tree removal situation. Is there another item?
I think that covered it.
Oh, and to,
I would add the east elevation.
Yes, yes.
yes, and to have the planning commission report on the appeal.
I second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. Very much appreciate your input.
We'll be seeing you.
yes,
Have a good evening.
You too.
okay, so where are we at on the agenda?
We're at work session item.
Okay. I think there was another item on the agenda, which is the additional discussion on the
Got it?
Midtown bathroom plan revision.
Correct. This is a work session item, so it's not a decision making. I do have a PowerPoint slideshow that I will be sharing.
Okay,
Okay, can everybody see that?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay,
fine.
so this is going to discuss a little bit about the appeal and then subsequent events to that appeal. So the city did appeal the decision that was made by the Design Review Board earlier this year, based on the provisions of 1788-140, where a decision by the Design Review Board may be appealed to City Council by a party to the hearing by filing an appeal within 14 consecutive days of the date of the final order was signed. The required information for an appeal is included, which would be identification of the decision, statement of interest, specific grounds for review, and also additional testimony for the review. The outcome of that appeal was the City Council overturned the original decision of file DRB 2301 and approved the plans that were submitted with that application. And then, based on feedback received regarding the originally submitted design, a revision has been developed that may be authorized through a minor review of the approved plans at the discretion of the chair of the Design Review Board. A minor review is a revision of approved plans that includes construction documents, shall conform to all aspects of approved design review plan where circumstances unknown or unforeseen at the time plans were approved make it undesirable or unfeasible to comply with some particular aspect of the approved plan. The applicant shall request in writing that the city review the modification. Sitting in the chair of the Design Review Board shall review the proposed modification to determine whether it constitutes a major or minor revision of the approved plans. And then minor review continued. Minor modifications are those which result in an insignificant change in the approved plan. The following are examples of minor modifications: limited dimensional or locational changes to building elements such as windows or doors, changes in building materials where only a limited area is affected, and substitution of landscape materials which do not affect the overall landscape design. If the city determines that the proposed change is a minor modification, the city will proceed with a review of construction documents or changes in construction. So there are going to be two diagrams here. This one is informational only. This is the proposed revision to the floor plan. And so as you can see here, there is a family-friendly restroom that has been added in that was not present in the originally submitted design. This does include the addition of a new door on the eastern portion, the eastern elevation of the structure here. All other aspects of the structure would be unchanged. So as the city approved City Council approved the original plans. The only change would be the addition of this door. All other aspects would be unchanged, and it is this, the city has requested a minor review of this application. Or of this revision would be a better description of that. We have requested that. That is why we are having this meeting tonight. But it is our opinion that this is a minor revision because it's only the addition of a doorway. It is not a significant change. And again, as stated during the January meeting, the interior is not subject to review.
The question is the footprint the same as in the original design, total footprint?
Correct. The footprint is the same. My understanding of how they came to this is they shrank. They kind of rearranged the bathroom configuration, kind of shrank the men's bathroom down a little bit. And in order to accommodate the family-friendly restroom.
Yeah, so I didn't want to sign this off unilaterally without you other guys seeing it. I'm fine with what they've done. And I'm willing to sign it unless there's any major objections. Noting again that you can't argue against anything of the original design that was blessed by the city council. Harvey, you still here?
I'm still here.
Do you have any,
This, personally, I believe staff could have handled that a lot differently. And I don't think it had to go to the city for appeal. And if they'd come back and responded to our suggestions, it could have been handled differently. This looks like a reasonable response, almost covers some of the things that we were talking about. So it seems like it works.
Are they still planning to just plant hydrangeas and the trees gone, or do we know that yet?
The landscaping plan would be unchanged.
And do we know about the tree? At this time?
Again, the landscaping plan is unchanged. The plan is to move forward with removal of the tree.
But I think that there was some discussion about from council to try to save the tree. Do we know if that's,
My understanding is that the concept of attempting to save the tree is impractical.
okay,
So again, the only change from what council approved versus what we were seeking a minor modification on is the addition of one doorway.
and so hydrangeas will be the landscape.
Landscaping,
5 hydrangeas, I think, is what was proposed.
I would have to go through and review that.
And they're removing the Escalonia hedge on the west side of the building. All the grass, the tree.
But again, we're not reviewing the landscape.
Oh,
That is,
I understand that. I understand.
But I also agree. I can't understand why the hedge that's been there forever has to be removed at all. The tree it's really in the way of the foundation for the building. So unless we can move the tree has to go. But I don't understand why the hedge has to go. And the plan for replacing it is, those aren't evergreen plants. So I'm just complaining. But I don't think this went well at all.
well, at this point, that's about all we can do is to complain, I guess, but we can't take any further action on what the city council has edicted.
At least they did insist on a family.
I think we gained quite a bit with that addition.
I would agree.
And
I don't know.
that's-
I don't know that Michelle was, but
yeah, I agree too.
I would note that they also added a foot washing station.
yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's a place to add lockers at some future date, should that happen or be considered to be practical.
And another thought for future handling is the idea of continuing something is far better than rejecting it. Had we continued it, we could have continued to be involved.
Well, we learned something that night, that's for sure.
Amen. Amen.
Chalk it up to being new.
Yeah. And not being guided.
Exactly.
So that's basically all I was going to cover was the request to go through the minor modification process for the addition of the door, and also just to cover the, basically the scope of what a minor modification is, that it is something like this where it is a relatively minor change to already approved plans.
Right.
Lovely.
I have nothing more to say about landscaping. Can you hold that as a
There's no
recommendation to council that they require more landscaping?
recommended, but it has no official
Right, but,
status.
okay, I just didn't know if, Chair, if you could add that little note to your signing of approval that we'd still like to see some better landscaping.
I'm
Free,
not sure I could even do that.
okay, all right,
I could go to the city council meeting and explain.
true,
Um,
all right.
Okay. Anything else on this topic? Harvey,
Nope.
good of the order?
Well, signs, I think we're gonna start discussing signs, and in particular, I know that we want to have all committee members present when we do start looking at the sign ordinance. I am questioning the approval by staff of the sign for the psychic.
So I've got a response to where you're going with this. So I've also been talking to the property owner of that building.
Mhm,
So, and I will tell you what I told them.
mhm.
We issued a sign permit. We did not go out there and tell the tenant, you can put your sign here. And one of the things that the property owner was asking about was apparently a small sign was affixed to the front of the building. Like I said, we don't go out and give permission for them to go out and do that. So just because a permit's been issued does not mean that they can overrule what their lease allows, overrule what the property owner is going to allow, things like that. So there is an aspect of this that is being handled between that individual and the property owner. If that makes sense. So the thing is, we got an application, we approved a sign.
Two
as-
signs.
And the thing is, there are examples of buildings that of businesses that have multiple signs. They can't be on the same frontage.
According to our ordinance, you can have one sign. You can have a freestanding sign and you can name the businesses, and then the business can have a sign above their door. And that application had no diagram. It stated two signs. One was going to be above their door. Their main sign, 24 square foot, was going to have 22-inch letters, and your staff report said 12 inches, but there was no diagram to know what that was going to do. I mean, are they just going to shrink their letters? Are they going to shrink their sign? And so I felt that should have come before design review board when on the application, it was complete and it said 22 inches, that we could discuss that.
On what grounds? Because the thing is that the materials being used were wooden paint. That falls under administrative.
Their
approval.
psychic,
They were not using alternative materials. It was not a freestanding sign. So it did not meet criteria to come before design review.
So what part in the sign ordinance are you using that it doesn't have to come before design review?
I just explained that. The two aspects that make a sign come before design review are the use of alternative materials and whether it is a freestanding sign.
Well, I guess that's something that we'll discuss when we get to that with committee members, is because I feel that all sign applications, and I think historically they have. If there's anything on the application that states it's different than what is stated on the ordinance, and plus the application was incomplete. There was no drawing of their sign.
Schematic provide, well, I wouldn't say schematic, there was a photo of what they had. They wanted to use a similar design.
That
We
wasn't
also,
public notices.
and we also do not regulate the design of the sign. We don't tell them, you know, what kind of font and lettering they can use.
I'm not saying that.
But there is a lot of aspect of control here that we don't have. And so we don't effectively micromanage the sign. I do want to point that out. I had a lot of telephone conversations with the applicant. There is no way to attach a telephone conversation to an approval. And I would be more than happy to go into how the signage permitting process works when we have this discussion at the next meeting.
Wonderful. That sounds great, Robert. Thank you.
When is that happening?
That would be the third Thursday of June. I'm sorry, the third Thursday of May.
Our regular meeting.
Correct.
You're not planning a separate
It'd just be a work,
session for things in general?
it would just be a work session item.
Okay. Anything else? You're adjourned.
Take care, Harvey.
Hope to see you with us next